From the land of ice and snow, a Viking appeared in the frozen mist with a chef's knife and sauté pan. Well, okay, from warm Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, that same Viking, now with thinner blood, brings you a Viking's Kitchen.
Basic, great dressing. What am I talking about with dressing? Well, I mean stuffing, like for Thanksgiving stuffing. Gonna start with one of the basic essentials for that, great bread. You can go to the store and buy bread, it's not the same. If bread lasts on the shelf for 13, 14 days, it's loaded with preservatives. You don't want it. Make your own. This is the homemade sourdough that I make. So I've cut it, left it set in the oven, not on, but in the oven for 2 days, letting it dry out. More body. Chicken stock, make your own. When you bake a chicken or you debone a chicken, save the carcass. Throw it in a gallon, gallon and a half of water, add a mirepoix, which is onions, celery, and carrots, chunked, big chunks. Boil it for an hour and a quarter, hour and a half. Boil it. You bring it to a boil and let it simmer for about an hour and a quarter, hour and a half, because you don't want it reducing all the way out. You got great chicken stock. You can freeze it. You can freeze it for use a month, 2, 3 months later. You can keep it in the refrigerator for a little while, not that long. Makes all the difference in the world. It's clean. You know what I'm talking about if you eat from processed foods. Let's say you make your own salad dressing. Let's say ranch. That's a common dressing here in the United States. You make your own versus buying it. There's no gumminess in the mouth. There's no salt flavor in the mouth when you're done, when it's from scratch. If it's from the bottle, you get that. You've got that texture in your mouth. Same thing with all cooking. Make it from scratch. It's what we're meant to eat. Our bodies can digest it. Starting with sourdough breadcrumbs, chicken stock, yellow onions, celery, parsley, salt, white pepper, not black pepper, there's a difference, thyme, marjoram, and sage, and of course, butter. You gotta have butter. Going to dice the onion. You can dice an onion several different ways. They even have really cool processors now. They're real expensive, they're commercial. Dice it up, beautiful, if you wanna spend about $2 grand. You can make like a bloom. And what we're doing is these are going to be about 3/16 of an inch by 3/16 of an inch. You don't cut all the way through. So you end up with this. And then you can cut it. Of course, the last of it you're going to have to chop a little differently. Speeds it up. Here's another way to do it. You can take and slice through them if you want to do it this way. And then you can chop them like this. What we're doing now is chopping up parsley. And this fresh parsley will go into the stuffing, dressing. Technically it's called dressing, but when you think of dressing, I know most people think salad dressing. Called bread dressing. With celery, you want to get rid of the white end here. You want to get rid of the tip too. So line them up, cut the tip off. You don't want any of that in there, and this bottom is nasty. Don't want any of that either. We're going to cut this into a medium dice. And they're about a little more than 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe 3/16. That's between 1/8 and 1/4. You go too thin, you're not going to get the texture of it in the dressing. Too thick, well, you may like that, but that's a little strange texture in the mouth for dressing, bread dressing. We're going to throw these in with the onions because they have the same saute time. Now the smaller ends I'm going to half, keeping the same consistency all the way through for size. Once you make homemade dressing, well, let's just start calling it dressing. We call it stuffing. You will never go back to a box mix. Don't take and make this and stuff it in the bird. Very good way to get foodborne illness. You want to make it on the side. You can use the same chicken stock and everything else, but it's just much safer. And it's going to be better. It's going to be more uniform. Of course, we're going to start with real butter. Butter's ready to go. You can notice it's not browning yet, not burning. So, the vegetables in. We're going to coat these evenly. If you don't feel comfortable sauteing this, just take a spatula and turn them. But you want them evenly coated with butter. You don't want the butter to be floating in the bottom and burning while the vegetables on top have not been coated yet. This is going to take, I've got it on a 9, on a 0 to a 10 on an electric burner. I got it on 9. So not complete high, but almost there. This is going to take probably about 8 to 10 minutes of sauteing. Then we're going to take and separate it into a bowl on the side, let it cool a little bit to almost room temperature, and then we're going to mix the ingredients to bring it together, and then we're going to put the dressing in the oven. All right, the vegetables are ready to go. So, put them in here, let them start to cool. Okay, they're translucent. Just ever so slightly brown, just a little bit, but they're translucent. They're not brown because they're going to bake for a while. I'm going to take and coat the pan with some shortening. Of course, you know, back in the old days, you would have used animal rendered fat, i.e. pork lard. Because every fall when you would butcher a hog, many, many years ago, you take and render the fat in a big old cast kettle, kind of like you see on a witch's kettle, and you'd wrap that in wax paper and put it down in the cellar for the year, and really there is no better flavor than pig lard, animal rendered fat. And it was just, it's kind of like the essence of bacon grease and things, so you know what that does. We're going to mix these ingredients together. So with the sourdough crumbs, I'm going to add the sauteed vegetables in first. Two schools of thought on this, the way we're doing this. I'm also going to add the parsley. Two schools of thought on this is you can add your spices in at this time, which I've done before. I happen to think, doing it many times, that the spices get incorporated more evenly when you mix it with the chicken stock. So we're coating all this evenly with the fat and the vegetables and the parsley. Now, we're going to start adding the chicken broth. I'll add a little bit of it, and that's so that I didn't spill it when I go to mix the spices in. White pepper, salt, margarine, sage, All good stuff. A little bit of thyme in there also. Never let a good cook tell you they don't have thyme. Of course, we're talking about the spice thyme. Now, you can adjust the amount of moisture that you're putting into this if you like a drier dressing or whether you like it more moist. What we're doing is making sure that it's evenly distributed. All the spices, the fat, the vegetables, the chicken broth, it's getting absorbed into that wonderful bread. Pre-greased pan. This is going to make wonderful dressing. I make it every Thanksgiving. It's just good basic dressing. You have some people, hey, they got oyster dressing, all these other types of dressings, but nothing beats a good basic dressing. Ladling some great gravy or sauce over the top of it. I'm going to slide this in the oven at 375. It's going to go for an hour. So in the middle of that, we're going to rotate it once again. So set your timer for 30 minutes and then 30 minutes more. And when she comes out, let her set for a little bit. You've got great dressing. The dressing's done. It's a phenomenal time. The smell, excellent. Look at that. A thing of beauty. The turkey, the dressing, potatoes are boiling for mashed potatoes. The sauce is done. It's going to be a great time. This is what's special here. Stuffing, dressing, homemade bread, especially sourdough. Wow. Make it for real. Make it from scratch. Make it your own. We'll see you around. And happy Thanksgiving.